So I think Paul could probably do this talk actually. I'll just talk about it in general then. So, very briefly, I will say, so the community hub, as Andy's in the room and I'm in the room, started from an Hwb project. There was an Hwb project that was an evidence of need gathering project, Deor Dyfi. So the idea was that we would ask the community what they wanted. So I was the project manager on that, working with Andy and working with that one myself. So we did various kind of engagement, going out to different places, asking people what they wanted. But one of the things that we did as a way of driving lots of different people into the room was to do a pop-up in this empty old Indian space for 8 days. So we had lots of different groups in here who were so different ones from forestry hubs, and Hwb, lots of different projects that were happening at the time were all in here, talking, showing what they were doing. And then we were doing lots of kind of creative visioning and activities to get people in here. And one of the things there's lots of things that emerged from it. One of the things that actually happened was that people were saying, oh, this is really good. It's really good to have this one space where we're all together and you can see all the different things that are happening in the community. And so we had this big thing that was written basically that said community hub, and everyone kind of put in their ideas about what they thought a community hub should look like. And that's actually it's actually upstairs in the room upstairs, so it's still here as the original kind of description of what a community hub could be. Actually what happened was the landlord came to us afterwards and said, I really liked what you did in there. It was really nice to see it being used by the community and lots of different people in the community going in to use it. So would you like it for the winter? Because it was the cost of living crisis was hitting, and he was sort of said, oh, I'm probably not going to rent it over the winter, so would you like to have it? So he was actually the one who approached us and said, do you want to have it for a little club over the winter? But it was a temporary project, so we came in to deliver it. There were 2 projects that had been looking for space. One was the surplus. Basically, had been looking for a space for quite a long time. Was it about 18 months, maybe even 2 years? They've been certainly about 18 months that they've been looking to try and find a space that was viable to run a surplus community fridge from. And then Hwb Dyfi, they got funded from a project and they were looking for a space to set up a community project. So those 2 projects came in. And we just kind of set up across the winter, really doing little drop-ins. We set up an advisory group that was made up of all the people who were using it, plus all the support groups like Advice Mid Wales and CAMAD, the care centre, any group in the area that's provided help and support, joined the advisory group. And then basically as we got towards the end, everyone kind of kept saying, oh, this is really good and we should carry on. But Hwb had kind of said that it wasn't really for them for much longer, but they'd stay for a little bit. So then we had this point where we suddenly, if we wanted to keep the space, at that point we had to find not less than commercial rent, but we had to find rent to do it. So we, as an advisory group, with lots of people involved, including Sabrina was involved in the original advisory group, we created a CIC in 11 days. And then just kind of went for it basically, and got little bits of funding from actually BDCR were really fundamental in the original pots of money. So they were getting extra money for their electricity, and so they kind of gave it back to the community, to lots of different community projects, and they were really fundamental, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the BDCR actually giving that money back in to us. They gave us money to do work on the kitchen, they gave us money actually just to pay the rent as well initially, so they were really fundamental in that. Anyway, then the idea was, and actually probably the main thing that I talk about a lot is the fact that it is a co-created space. We always wanted that from the beginning, that it was actually delivering what the community wanted. So we never wanted to kind of say, oh, this is what we think the community should have here. What we wanted to do was say, you tell us what you want and we'll try and help. And so that's then added to that in terms of different groups or volunteers or people would just come along and say, oh, this would be a nice idea. And so like with the baby bank, someone came to me and said, oh, we have this sharing group on WhatsApp. It would be really great if we could have a shelf and a rail in the corner so we could actually put stuff there and people can pass it on to one another. And then that's now grown because more volunteers have got involved, more donations have been made. Lots of donations come in, it goes out as fast as it does, and that's become really successful. And actually they've got part of the space upstairs now, so the baby bank is, that's kind of grown, but it's grown kind of with the people being involved and more people saying, oh, this is great, I want to bring things in. I think it's really important that we do have that kind of, I would say, I'm always really, it's tricky to know kind of how to phrase it, but we have a sharing, reusing, repairing thing that is kind of part of it, but we don't talk about it a lot. It's not something that we kind of say, well, this is what we're all about. It's here because people don't want to throw the clothes away, and actually clothes are really, the baby clothes are really expensive to buy, and it's just really nice to share them. So it's based on a sharing ethos. But actually behind it all, when you actually think about how many clothes have maybe not been thrown into the bin or not been bought new as a result of that baby right being here for just 12 months, it's already having quite a significant impact. And that's what it's about in terms of when a community works together and actually does that across, even in a small community, you can actually have quite a big impact. And if you think about 2 years of the food that would have gone into landfill or anaerobic digesters that has been collected, volunteers collect the food 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, including Christmas and New Year. So it never stops in terms of picking that food up, even if it's small amounts. So it could be a couple of loaves of bread, but a volunteer will be there to pick it up. It doesn't get thrown away. It gets put in the freezer and it gets shared. And we definitely know that a lot of people feel that here it's not a food bank. It is anyone can access the community fridge. It's about food not going to waste. And then, so yeah, we've just kind of carried on basically doing what people asked us to do. So we've had a lot of people asking us for different things, but we'd actually reached a level where we couldn't carry on doing it as volunteers. So we have actually, some people might not actually know this, I think most people do, but we've just been successful with People and Places funding. So we've just got National Community Lottery funding of £94,723 over 2 years. So now that's really exciting, because what we normally do is that we open on Wednesday 10 till 7 at night. We open on Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. But now we're going to be opening on Monday as well, from 10 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And that focus is very much about, it's all those things that people have been saying to us, oh, we really need this. So those things, people want to do a nice, we're going to have a little informal talking in Welsh group, because people have said that they kind of struggle with going to the ones that are around. It's too formal for them, so they want a kind of more informal one, and also want to learn swear words and how to say things in a more kind of real way. So that's kind of been one of the requests. So that kind of group has started to form. So from that to the other end, we're actually, a lot of people have been asking us for a bereavement group, because there isn't one in the area. So we're working with Maent. So Maent are going to support us to set one up and give us the training we need to kind of carry that on and hold that in the area. So it continues to be basically the community come and say we want to do this, and you know, we always encourage people to be involved in it, not just sort of say, oh, this is a good idea. We kind of actually, that thing about actually being committed to it as well. It's not just about saying. It doesn't have to be financial. It can actually be. It's an investment of some of yourself. Absolutely. So some time, and actually, you know, so we ask people to almost, if they have an idea, we kind of say, well, you know, go and talk to other people and see how many people want to do that. And then I kind of, it feels now that what we do is, I always describe it as nurturing hands. So we kind of hold projects as they start off and help to support them. And then that could be anything else. The baby bank could eventually move into a separate place altogether, or you know, so those things I can actually see that happening, where we kind of go, actually we don't have enough space here for how much demand there is, so that could move on. And we have the uniform swap, which is also getting bigger and bigger all the time. So yeah, this building may not actually be big enough, and we might actually have to start kind of going, let's have franchises. Yeah, that's another thing to be inspired by. So yes, it's quite amazing. It's pretty much 2 years since the CIC was registered on the 20th of May 2023, so it's just over 2 years. So it's been a really very short period of time to achieve what it has, but it does feel like it's but it is based on that community creating it and supporting it, and that's kind of where it comes from. Is there anything I've not said from those people?
Do you have any employed people through the
The people and places does now. So we're the Brotherly Volunteer Centre working with Pavo. So we're the delivery partner for Pavo. So that's always had a part-time volunteer coordinator. But then now the people and places will actually have a hub coordinator. It's a well-being coordinator role that is about bringing together the volunteering and the well-being aspects of volunteering with actually linking people with different things in the area. And also an event coordinator is part of that funding that we'll have. So we will have 3 part-time roles now. So yeah, it's very exciting. Anything else?
It sort of rises to meet demand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because in after COVID, and it was cost of living crisis, but the warm table and allegedly a warm space.
It is now a warm space thanks to John fitting us the air to air heat. And also we have air conditioning. We're one of the few places with air conditioning that switches to an air conditioner on a hot day, doesn't it, John? It has, and actually I think, and I do think the post-COVID thing is really key to it, because actually there's a lot of people who come in here, and the most important thing, it's kind of, there's lots of things that we do here, but actually having the space where people can come in and they don't have to pay for anything, they can come in with no money in their pocket and sit down and have a chat with someone and have a cup of tea and a coffee, and they don't have to pay for it, and they could get some food out of the fridge and just have a chat and talk to someone, maybe have a chat to someone else who's in here. That's always felt really quickly. It kind of felt actually providing that space where people don't feel the pressure of having to pay for it and can actually just sit down and find someone to talk to is really important. And the more we do that, that's kind of what it's always felt.
And it inspires when we have visitors to town. They're welcome to come in and they're always impressed, and hopefully they'll go away and think, well, we could do this where we are. And it makes Matt look better.
A couple of people said to me recently they almost think, God, they can't remember a time when it wasn't here, because it's kind of become part of it. So that's quite nice to kind of think.
Are you
it's cool.
in conversation with what used to be called Hwb Cymunedol? Creating an ecosystem of similar projects would be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hwb Surplus, definitely because I'd actually done projects with Hwb Surplus, and Ewan's been kind of coming on and chatting to us about things they do there, but it does feel, I mean, they're obviously, they've got a kitchen space now. What's interesting is we do have a kitchen space, and so actually now we can start to build that in a bit more, because there is more capacity for us to do more interesting things with some of the surplus food. Like, we really should have made the mountain of brioche buns into bread butter pudding, and we didn't quite get there. I actually went and bought the dried fruit to make it, and then actually it was just going quickly enough. And the surplus that we were picking up, I think it was about 4 nights in a row that we had this mountain of brioche buns. But also,
kept those burgers.
The mountain of burgers. There are really other things that I really like as well about the food surplus, in that when the food that we can't save, we put into the compost, which goes off to Compostia proof. So there is and I kind of have this, I keep wanting to grow things in the compost so that we could put that back into the fridge, and we kind of still keep trying to work on that to try and get that to happen. But also Craig Simmons, the market, the vegetable stall outside, have always given us stuff that they can't take away, they give to us. So we've always had kind of fruit and vegetables coming in on a Wednesday as a result of them. But one of the women who works on their stall, we actually found out a few weeks ago, has an animal sanctuary. So when we had this surplus of brioche, and we literally ran out of freezer space, so we actually had some that had to go in the fridge, and so we couldn't share it, so we had to, either be composted. So we said to her, do you want to take these? And so she actually, and actually as it happened, I think we had a surplus of salad as well at the same time. So we had the mountain of salad, so we just gave these like 3 bagfuls of bread and brioche buns and salad. And she's just sent me the pictures today of her pig Sparky running off with a brioche bun, because he didn't want to share with any other pigs, and thought the brioche bun was great. So that was quite nice. Sparky the pig enjoys us having a surplus that we can't put to the compost as well.
Maybe the animals locally would like to indulge in it.
We did. Pippa used to take some as well. Actually, if we had big surpluses of bread, Pippa would come in and take them for the
In terms of the structure, CIC, so is there a board at all, or volunteers, or how does what's the structure look like? How many volunteers do you have, and are they carrying on being volunteers, although with these new officers?
Yeah. So the legal structure of the CIC needs a board of directors. So there is a board of directors. In the same way that you'd have with so it's similar to a charity, you'd have trustees, but with the CIC they're called directors. But also we actually added extra layers here because of trying to make the co-created model work here. The advisory group carried on, so there was an advisory group, and we had this thing that if you were involved, if you were a project here, so Deor Dyfi, Surplus, which actually is a separate project, Baby Bank has its separate volunteers, those people would join the advisory group. And then there was a point actually where it was actually getting so busy, we actually put there's a second layer which is a management group, and the management group actually deal with more operational stuff, and that was literally that there was too much to deal with, so we actually needed more people who were willing to volunteer and actually help with the day-to-day stuff. So we actually have a 3-tier now, so there's an advisory group, and the idea is that is the ideas base. So if people have ideas, they go to the advisory group and chat it through with them, and they kind of discuss how they feel about it, whether they feel it would work, and what needs to look at it, and what needs to be done. And then there's the management group that would then kind of go, oh, actually, yeah, this is great. Let's take that on board. And then kind of what we do is put a working group in place. So we actually have teams of working groups that deal with each project. So for instance, with the working group, we actually had, I'm trying to think of the easiest example to give you. So we were approached by the Dial-A-Ride, who previously had the minibus. So they had the Dial-A-Ride, and they were closing down the Dial-A-Ride. There was an asset to the community bus. So they said to us, we're thinking we would give you the bus if you thought you could, have it. And that sounds great, but also it's also like, well, who's going to pay for it and what's going to happen? So there's lots of problems. So what happened was that went to the advisory group to say, do people think we should say yes to this? And let's have a look at it. And they said, oh yeah, this sounds a really great idea. It went to the management group, and then the management group then put a working group in place. So we have we sort of say, right, who wants to be part of the working group? Who will take that and actually look at how we set up a community transport system that makes the minibus viable as a community minibus, basically. And then the directors are the idea is the directors are there just to kind of sign off and make sure everything is still staying within, so they that's that sign off. And that's been an interesting model to look at, because actually it is trying to constantly, it's ensuring that normally you have directors who do have the control, because they do, that's actually the legal structure, but we wanted to make sure that actually the directors here are responsible to the advisory group, which is the users effectively, so that the users lead so it's does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It sounds really complicated, but that has also grown organically, that there wasn't a plan in place about that. There was just an awareness that we had to make sure it was co-created and that people weren't in control here, and it was community owned, and it was community run, it was community led, and that's grown organically. And then I've gone to some groups like the Co-Pro Network in Wales to say, can you have a look at this and see, are we doing it right? Does this make sense? And can we do this any better? So I've kind of gone and had different groups then advise us about how we actually, if it's right or if it's just a completely, but apparently it's okay, it's good, which is good to know. Any other?
Thank you so much. And it's just, incredible